What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're back with more Destiny content. Normally, at this time, on a Tuesday with the reset, we would be covering, well, vendor updates, featured loot, Eververse, all the normal stuff with the patch notes, and yes, we did have an update today, but at this precise moment, at reset, Bungie have just said that downtime for the update today has been extended, and another update on the issue will be provided on an hourly basis, so for the moment, we actually can't sign into Destiny 2, although by the time you're watching this video, it's entirely possible we'll be able to sign in, obviously. It's the first time this has actually happened for a little while, I think, but nonetheless, in this one, we'll round up the full patch notes for the update today, because actually there are quite a few changes, some which we knew we were going to get, others which are unannounced ahead of time, I suppose. So instead of doing the normal weekly reset part, we'll do the patch notes here, and then hopefully the game will be working in a bit, and we can cover the exotic mission and stuff like that. In terms of the changes this week, we've got update 9.15. We'll get straight into it with general changes. Bungie say Kepler's Altar of Relativity now focuses engrams and daily rewards up to 450 power. So I assume that means if you focus something at the altar, it will drop at 450 power, or it will drop at, an appropriate power level based on your current power level. Otherwise, exotic focusing at Master Raoul will now award gear at your power level, that's nice, and focusing at Ada 1 is no longer capped at 200 power, so a bunch of changes there to stuff being capped below our current power levels, which is certainly nice. Otherwise, they fixed issues where specific holofoil weapon visuals could cause a crash on specific devices. Otherwise, an issue where players could not dismantle nonary manifolds in a full stack, so if you've been holding on to those for a few months at this point, you can finally get rid of them. Otherwise, Devrim will no longer show a reputation rank on his director tooltip. Plus, they fixed an issue where the Final Shape Legendary campaign start screen incorrectly referenced completing the Edge of Fate's campaign, so some basic fixes there. Otherwise, they make mention of Heliostat, which is the exotic mission. The mission launches today, and for the first run, they say it will be locked at normal difficulty and fixed modifiers, with rewards for the first run being a power bump for all fireteam members, no matter where they are in the power journey. Then once completed, the full portal tiers and modifier customization will be available in the Pinnacle Ops and must be configured appropriately for power progression. So basically the first run is standardized for everyone. Otherwise, outside of that, like other exotic missions that are now part of Pinnacle Ops, it will basically behave in the same way, and presumably that's where we'll go to find catalysts and stuff like that. When it comes to the portal though, they say the following Fireteam Ops activities have moved to Pinnacle Ops, so that includes Onslaught Midtown and Widow's Court, as well as the Coil and Contest of Elders, so they're now Pinnacle Ops activities. They're also increasing the frequency with which the Deluge Accelerator will drop energy wells, so when that next comes back, we'll get a buffed version of it. And in the Encore Pinnacle Op, they say the door to the final boss arena will now open without needing to wait through dialogue to interact. They also fixed issues where players may not revive consistently in Reclaim and some Pinnacle Ops activities, another where Pinnacle Ops would not count for some objectives, and one where the description for the medieval weapons modifier did not state that it required new gear like other loadout modifiers. Otherwise, there was an issue with the Coil, where the match game modifier would make immunity shields more difficult to break than intended, and they fixed a problem where completion rewards for Fallen Saber Conquest were going directly to the Postmaster. In Desert Perpetual though, they fixed a problem where players who completed the Atlas and Almanac quest in the raid before completing the Maps and Territories quest in the normal version were unable to complete the latter quest, which blocked access to the vendor attunement and whirling Ovation Catalyst, so that's nice if you're raiding. Otherwise, for Trials of Osiris, an issue that was preventing players from being able to change their glow colours using the Flawless Passage, and one where players could pick up a Trials passage while on a Lighthouse passage with no losses. In competitive though, they've added the new Ascendant emblem, and this emblem can be claimed at Shacks if you've been ranked Ascendant 3 or higher at any point in this season, so that's nice. Plus they fixed an issue where the slow capture rule set for collision could cause matches to end early. Then in general, they fixed an issue where the boss would not spawn in the Simulation Safeguard Exo Challenge. Wow, Exo Challenges! I'd almost entirely forgot they existed. Onto gameplay and investment though for Exotic Armor. For Strongholds, they've reverted the entirety of the rework from update 9.10, so its behavior, based on that wording, goes back to how it was before the Edge of Fate update, I believe. Then on the Melis Panoplia, they fixed an issue where the Forge Master melee regen was remaining active after switching off Throwing Hammer. And here we get onto some of the sandbox tuning that I've spoken about previously. That includes the Finite Impactor getting its stats buffed, as you can see on screen. So basically those stats were more or less the original versions from when it first dropped. which didn't really compete with other hand cannons. Then on spread shots, they've increased the bonus damage versus enemies in PvE from 8% to 15%, which is basically to offset a bunch of stat changes, so range dropping by 5%, spread increasing by 10%, increased recoil by 25%, and reduced handling by 10%. Those later changes really designed for PvP. Otherwise, on heavy burst sidearms, they've reduced the base damage, with body shot damage going from 33 to 31, and crit damage going from 52.8 to 49.6. But onto exotic weapons, Hierarchy of Needs had an issue where the catalyst wasn't improving draw time and reload speed when striking a target, so that's fixed. Other weapon fixes include an issue where the Antidate submachine gun's red dot sight was slightly off center, so that's a nice fix, I guess. Otherwise, for general fixes and bolt charge, they fixed the problem where it could not be discharged with a glaive melee. Then we get on to the new passive traits. So for Hunter, they've increased the default sprint speed from 8 meters a second to 8.6 meters a second. And they say the passive non-sprinting movement speed bonus is increased from the old tier 4 mobility to the old tier 10 mobility. So in PvP modes, this bonus is equivalent to the old tier 7. Otherwise, Hunters also now have a 10% bonus to weapon equip speed, and in PvP modes, the bonus is 5%. The Warlock now has an innate 10% bonus to passive grenade energy regeneration as well. Plus, they say it now has a 5% additive bonus to grenade damage, and the benefit for that is halved in PvP. Titans also get a passive trait here, which I'm not sure they actually mentioned in the previous twit, but unarmed melee deals 20% increased damage against PvE combatants, and the damage increase is 5% against players in PvP. Plus, Towering and Rally Barricade taunt PvE combatants in front of the barricade, and they note Titan passive trait bonuses have been live since October 8th in update 8.10. That's actually referencing October 8th, 2024, so those changes came out a year ago at this point. I guess they're just throwing them in because players were saying, where is the Titan passive trait? That's why they didn't mention it, because as far as Bungie are concerned, it already existed. Onto Hunter class changes though. For Marksman Dodge, it now picks up nearby ammo bricks on activation and reloads all weapons on activation, which is good. And for the suspending slam aspect, it no longer increases cooldown duration after use, and suspending enemies with the slam now gives woven mail, which is an absolute freebie. That's pretty good. They also say the duration scales with the number of enemies suspended. Then on Threaded Spectre, they've increased the fragment slots from 2 to 3. For the on your mark aspect though, they say stacks of it now give the weapon stat, so a maximum of 50 weapon stat at 10 stacks, and it still grants the previous reload benefit as well, but they have rescaled the stack count to a maximum of 10, and precision hits now give 1 stack and precision final blows give 2 stacks. Otherwise, final blows at 2 stacks will also cure the player, and precision final blows at 10 stacks no longer give radiance, so they basically swapped those two around. Otherwise, for Deadshot, the super, they say it now refunds ammo on Golden Gun final blows instead of on ignitions, and it extends super duration on Golden Gun final blows. Then for Stasis, Grim Harvest, Stasis shard creation no longer has a cooldown in PvE, which is good. Then on Combination Blow, they fixed an issue where it wasn't consistently activating, which is nice. Otherwise, on Prismatic, Gunpowder Gamble, they fixed an issue where final blows with non-solar weapons were not granting Gunpowder Gamble stacks. And on Stylish Executioner, an issue where the Threaded Spike and Withering Blade melees would not apply Weaken after activating the aspect. Getting on to Warlocks though, for constructs, they say the following Warlock constructs now count as grenades for stats and perks, so it includes Ionic Sentry, Arc Soul, Helion, Bleak Watcher, and Child of the Old Gods, which should be interesting. On Void, for Chaos Accelerant, it now grants 2 grenade charges. On Scatter Grenade, the charged grenade now creates 4 more Seekers, so that's a buff. They've also increased the charged Seeker damage versus enemies by 25%, and the tracking versus combatants, as well as the charged Seeker lifetime, so those are positive. On Axiom Bolt, it now detonates twice when it's charged, so that's cool. They've also increased the projectile damage, again by 25%, and reduced projectile speed when tracking enemy players by 40%, to obviously offset some of that power in PvP. On the Vortex Grenade though, they say the charged grenade now repeatedly pulls enemies into it, and against enemy players, the pull strength is reduced over time. Otherwise, we can see that Spike Grenade, Suppressor, and Void Wall Grenade now charges into handheld Supernova, so that's good. They do highlight though, for the Glacial Harvest aspect, the change to the aspect to remove the Stasis Shard creation cooldown in PvE will be released in update 9.151, so I'm guessing that's probably the update we get next week, because there already is a patch confirmed at next reset. For Weavewalker though, or Weavewalk, sorry, they tuned the movement on Weavewalk, enter and exit. Then finally on Prismatic, the pocket singularity melee, they fixed an issue where sliding with Lightning Surge equipped could cause players to lose additional melee charges. We finish with Titans though. For Stasis, Shiver Strike specifically, they say Whiffed Attack now returns a flat 80% energy in PvE and 40% in PvP, so when you whiff it, it won't be quite as annoying, in a way, sort of. Otherwise, for Howl of the Storm, it now grants 2 melee charges, and they've changed the Stasis Crystal spawn pattern, as well as adding 4 more crystals. Plus, it now slows enemy players instead of freezing them. Otherwise, for Cryoclasm, they've increased the fragment slots from 2 to 3, and reduced the long slide cooldown from 4 to 2 seconds. Then on Tectonic Harvest, Stasis Shard creation no longer has a cooldown in PvE, and for Void Unbreakable, they say they've reduced the grenade energy drain speed when holding a shield, they've also reduced the forward movement slowdown when the shield is hit by an attack, and increased fragment slots from 2 to 3, plus the blast now disorients enemies for a short time. Lastly though, for the Bastion aspect, it no longer increases cooldown time in PvE, so generally, in terms of ability changes, some of them obviously are fixes or Bungie reverting certain things that were previously changed, but largely these are pretty good sandbox changes. Not necessarily the first thing that most players are thinking about with the current conversation about the portal, the power grind, and all that kind of stuff, but in terms of the sandbox specifically, those are pretty decent across the board, I think, so give me your thoughts about them below. Moving on to quests and pursuits though, they fixed the problem where some players were unable to complete the reclaimed datapad seasonal challenges, and players missing these challenges will now be able to acquire datapads that they had not picked up before. That's a positive. There's also a fix for players who had already unlocked the tower, not being able to progress the Guardian Rises quest, so that's the intro quest. Problems with Banshee's daily bounties not showing up or being purchasable, but basically just stealing Glimmer and not giving you the bounties, so that's nice. Otherwise, at the very end, there's player identity and expression. The Iron Beryllium armor set has been renamed to the Iron Forged Valor set. That's the one that they updated after the drama about the cosmetic stuff a while ago, so it basically has a different name. They also added the Iron Banner shader, Iron Valus, for players to claim from Lord Shaxx. Plus, there are some other kind of minor bits, things missing from rewards passes or visuals being changed. Largely, nothing super major, but if you're curious, you can see the rest of those expression changes, as Bungie refer to them, on screen. So there we go. I figured, instead of sitting here doing nothing while we have this extended downtime, I get the patch notes covered, and then I can jump straight into the exotic mission. So largely, some good changes there. I especially like the power fixes where certain activities were just dropping stuff at 200 power or whatever. Not sure why that ever happened in the first place, but good to see those adjustments as well as the sandbox stuff and general fixes. So give me your thoughts below, guys. If you found the video today helpful, a rating very much helps me out on the channel. But otherwise, thank you for watching, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.